Banking with Capital One helps you keep more money in your wallet with no fees or minimums on checking accounts and no overdraft fees. Just ask the Capital One bank guy. It's pretty much all he talks about, in a good way. He'd also tell you that this podcast is his favorite podcast, too. Aw, really? Thanks, Capital One bank guy. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Hey, it's Mark Marin from WTF here to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And I'm sure the reason you're listening to this podcast right now is because you chose it. Well, choose Progressive's Name Your Price tool, and you could find insurance options that fit your budget, so you can pick the best one for your situation. Who doesn't like choice? Try it at Progressive.com. And now, some legal info. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at vanta.com.
Parles-tu français?
¿Hablas español?
Parli italiano?
If you've used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based technique teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world. With lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers, Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/acast. Spelled BABBEL.com/acast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, November 7th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up in the context of those stories, and help each other understand.
Today, Andy Beach tells us about Amazon's solopreneur blind spot, and the generative AI video race is heating up with Sora and Vibes expansions taking place.
I'm Jason Howell.
I'm Huyen Dow.
Let's start with what you need to know with a big story. Okay, I'm curious because we didn't really talk about this very much, if at all, on Android Faithful earlier this week, surprisingly. But OpenAI's Sora Android app, which did release earlier this week, apparently doing very well. It shot off to a very strong start, 470,000 first day installs. That's a pretty impressive outing on the very first day. That's actually more than 4 times the amount of iOS's numbers, which saw around 110,000 total installs on day one. The releases are a little different, though. On iOS, it was a limited kind of amount of users that could use it because of an invite-only requirement. Also, more restricted regional rollout that just limited it to US and Canada. The Android app is a little more expanded. So maybe they're not apples to apples. But then as I was kind of like thinking through this story, I realized that Meta also, and actually, honestly, reminded that Meta had released something similar to Sora in the US back in September. That was an app called Vibes. And that, well, actually, it's not really an app called Vibes. It's a portion of their Meta AI app that is dedicated to Vibes. And, you know, it features short form AI generated video content, a sharing functionality, of course, baked in because it's a Meta product after all. Mm-hmm. So the news now is that Meta has expanded that app into Europe. And I don't know, because we haven't really talked about it much. I've definitely used Sora quite a bit over the past month, even though it wasn't on Android. I used my daughter's iOS app or device to install and claim my username because I wanted to get, you know, that all locked in.
Yeah.
And then realized that I could use it through a web browser once the account was created. So I've been using it for a month now. I'm curious to know if you've been using it or even checked it out. And I definitely have some thoughts about like where this is headed, but I'm curious to know, like, what are your thoughts here? Have you used it?
No, but now that you say that, I should probably grab my username because I am that kind of person. Mm-hmm. But I do find that pretty fascinating. I mean, like, it's really hard to compare, app launches just because there's just too many factors. It's hard to compare. But I will say that is actually incredibly impressive. And I mean, even without the invites, even with, a larger number of release regions, that's pretty dang impressive for first day install. So no, I haven't. So I'd be really curious to hear what you think of it, Jason.
Well, I mean, I think the things that come up for me. So when I was kind of introducing the meta aspect, it was kind of funny because as I was like researching and writing about Sora, I was like, God, the more I use the Sora app, the more I feel like this is kind of another, not an evolution, but another direction for social media that we didn't have before, forgetting that Meta had already done something similar to this. When Meta released Vibes, the kind of, the direction that a lot of press went was, and here's a social media network for AI generated slop, going the real negative, like, why is anyone going to want this? Because it's just all fake and it's all, just low effort, just not high quality content, let's say. And now here we are 6 weeks later, Sora has introduced its app for both platforms. By all accounts, doing pretty well out of the gate. And as a user of the app, I've found myself pulled into it. And I think what's interesting, and I talked a little bit about this on the AI Inside podcast with Jeff a couple of days ago. What I find so compelling about the Sora app right now is the fact that it's really like, yes, everything is fake. Yes, it's all AI generated, but you kind of know that going in because that's the entire platform. That's just what it does, right? So anything you see there is generated and fake. But it offers a nice level, an appealing level of levity. Like there's a real lack of seriousness.
Yeah.
When I open that app and I use it and I'm like just browsing other people's creations, it's ridiculous. It's outrageous. Some of it's like not very well done, but some of it is really impressive. And the entire time I'm just like, this is like creativity for creativity's sake. Even though someone didn't get in there and shape it with their hands, they were able to come up with an idea or a concept that led to this thing that on its own level is kind of appealing just because it doesn't take itself seriously.
I do think that's super important. I really like that aspect that you brought up because, and I wonder, the difference, say, between Vibes and Sora's approach is not just UX, which I want to talk about because as an app developer, that makes me very excited to hear that, you're finding one that is inherently pulling you in. That's not common, but also maybe even just our public perception of Meta versus OpenAI in regards to just association with OpenAI. I just feel like OpenAI has ChatGPT has, for all of its many faults, I feel like it has a more solid foundation as a AI platform. And, people feel the way they feel about Meta and whether that goes into it. And maybe there is also something about the fact that Vibes was part of another app, whereas Sora gets to be its own thing. And so it truly maybe feels like its own social media app. But I think that makes a lot of sense because as well, that to have it be its own separate social media app, especially where we kind of, vacillate these days in this world between doom scrolling and needing a what is it like what's the palate cleanser from our doom scrolling. I do think that there's in a sense there's a market for something where you can just create, as you said, like a little bit of a safe space for just light creativity. And when you were talking, you mentioned that, it's there. It reminds me of just people sharing memes. Memes aren't complicated. They're not like inherently like you creating new art, but you're using prior art, prior ideas, prior the actual definition of the word memes and creating content that should hopefully amuse or show an insight. And it feels like that is almost, it's hitting into that, like that impulse or that kind of now appetite that we have these days for this kind of like short, appealing, almost like connection that you get with that kind of content, with that kind of, sharing. I don't know. I like that a lot. Is it easy to like, is it Sora that has easy remixing? I was trying to read up on both of those, but the sharing and remixing aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Sora now, one of the newer features that they have is a remix feature. So if you see a creation that someone came up with, and mind you, you don't necessarily know how they prompted their way to that creation, but if it's inspiring to you, you can hit the remix button and then you could say like this, but instead of those characters, use these characters, or this, but with this, influence or this direction. And so you end up with you end up with this real deeply embedded kind of remix culture that is like, oh, I like your idea. I'm going to one up it and take it into this new direction. It's almost like, you're splintering off the code into different directions, the code base,
Yeah.
But it's really inspiring. And there's definitely a collaborative quality to it. I know a lot of people, I know that there are a lot of people out there that have just an immediate negative visceral reaction when it comes to AI generated content, but it's, also AI generated video. Cause well, you didn't do anything for that and all of the negative aspects and everything. And I don't discount any of that. I think that I think it's a fair perspective to feel all the ways that people do about AI, both positive and negative. And at the same time, using Sora has made me realize just how heavy and weighted using other social media apps feels to me right now. And opening up X, opening up Threads, and going down that rabbit hole, I might see some things that bring a little joy to my life, but I'm probably also going to see things that are, yes, important, but might not be like the thing that I need to see right now, because sometimes I just need to be I need positivity. And I don't know. Sora seems to give me positivity right now, I guess is what I'm saying. Even though it's ridiculous, at least at the end of using the Sora app, I don't feel like my world is just crashing down. And maybe that's me putting my head in the sand. I don't know.
No, but
I enjoy having a platform for that.
Someone told me yesterday that, we all need our nervous systems regulated in the midst of everything. Yes. And I will say that, yes, I have many concerns about AI as well. And there's obviously a lot of very valid concerns about AI, quote unquote, AI slop on platforms like YouTube. But if we could just maybe assume that at some point, AI generated content is not going anywhere, but if we could put aside for a second all of the moral and copyright and other sides, it does make sense though to have this kind of creativity and this kind of content have its own platform. Then there's an inherent understanding that, hey, this is all generated content. All right. So so there's an expectation there. And then within that space, people can really play with it in what seems like a good, the spirit that this really flies in, as you said, where people can remix, play off for other ideas, which is why I think partially why TikTok got so big as well, is that ability to remix and things like that and to play with it. And I feel like if anything, this is the ideal platform for this kind of content and this kind of creativity. So I think again, setting all the other challenges aside, I can't fault anyone for wanting to create and share and again help regulate their nervous system. We all need that.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I agree.
All right. Well, DTNS is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Justin Zellers, Carmine Bailey, Chris Beneteau, and welcome new patron, Richard.
Welcome, Richard. Good to have you here.
As a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of clocking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That hiring partner is LinkedIn Jobs. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage, all in one place. With LinkedIn's new tools, you can write great job descriptions and quickly get your post in front of the right people using deep candidate insights. You can either post your job for free or pay to promote it. Promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified applicants. At the end of the day, what matters most is the quality of your candidates. 72% of small businesses using LinkedIn say it helps them find high-quality hires. And you can boost your reach by adding a hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to get twice as many qualified candidates. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/DTNS. That's linkedin.com/DTNS. Terms and conditions apply.
Ready to order.
Yes.
We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Busy work weeks can leave you feeling drained. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet works at the cellular level to rejuvenate you from the inside out, providing real results that include fat-focused, sustainable weight loss with no injection needed. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top medical centers, Prolon supports biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/start. That's prolonlife.com/start.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Hey, it's Maya and Sim from the Girls That Invest podcast. If you are an IT or security pro, you know managing devices, identities, and applications can feel overwhelming and honestly risky. That's where Trellica by 1Password comes in. It helps conquer SaaS sprawl and shadow IT by discovering every app your team uses, managed or not. With pre-built app profiles, you can assess risk, manage access, and even optimize your software spend. Plus, it simplifies onboarding, offboarding, and compliance, all while cutting costs by eliminating unused licenses. Take the first step to better security for your team. Learn more at onepassword.com/special offer.
There's more we need to know today. Let's get to the briefs.
All right, well, Rockstar Games has once again delayed the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. It was first pushed to May 26, 2026, after saying it would arrive for a fall 2025 launch. Obviously, that didn't happen. So now the company announced during its quarterly earnings announcement this week that it's pushing the title 6 months further to November 19th, 2026. So no specific reason was given by Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick, but he reinforced his confidence in the quality of the game in development. Rockstar says the extra time will ensure the game meets players' expectations for polish in the GTA universe. Rockstar says the recent firings of around 30 to 40 employees were unrelated to the game's delay.
I didn't realize this game has been in development for 10 years.
I lost track.
Really long time. So, of course, you know, people are going to have high expectations. Rockstar has high expectations. Zelnick actually said, we're seeking to release the most extraordinary title anyone's ever seen in the history of entertainment. Wow. He says that's a tall order. And yeah, I'll say it
well,
is.
I mean, when you set your bar that high, you better deliver.
I mean, you're a developer, you know, like you probably, like there's probably a line at which you go like, all right, there is no such thing as perfection. It's good enough out the door. But you also don't want to release something when it's absolutely positively not ready. And something high profile like this, absolutely.
I literally was like, I've been told that so many times, like having, you know, like, execs tell me or project managers tell me, hey, like we want it to be great and we know you guys want to do great work, but perfect is the enemy of getting it out the door. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, I don't think I've ever released a project with this much anticipation, much.
Totally.
We'll call it baggage. It's good baggage, right? Because everyone, you know, like GTA is an acclaimed, very loved franchise. So I would not want to deal with that. And yeah, like I have been like part of very tiny releases, just individual features where we had to get pushed back. So I'd say like, if we take them at their word, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of expectations. If they've already weathered the press and maybe everybody's kind of like inured to all right, we're still waiting for GTA 6. Might as well, I guess, take the extra time. I would always like extra time when I'm running short and have a big deadline that I know is really important.
Of course.
So I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll appreciate it for the GTA devs with them. So
yeah. So, we'll see if it gets delayed again. Amazon has launched Amazon Bazaar, a new standalone app focused on shopping for low-cost products available in more than a dozen markets across Asia, Africa, Latin America. Products inside the app typically run in the $2 to $10 price range, though they, some of them do fall outside of that price range. The app includes user reviews, ratings, support for 6 languages. It offers initial discounts if you happen to be a new shopper. So there's that. Amazon users can use their normal login credentials to get into the app and use the same payment methods that are offered through the main Amazon app as well. Bazaar is really aiming to compete, as you can imagine, as you can guess here, with, competition like Temu, Shein, TikTok Shop, those sorts of places. So that's Amazon Bazaar. Does this sound appealing to you?
I really think it does. I mean, Amazon in my daily experience is such a big glut of every single thing everywhere. Especially given that it's Amazon, so they have the infrastructure and the experience in this, it feels like a really good opportunity for these regional markets and small independent, vendors in these smaller markets to really have a chance to get exposure and sales for their products. So I'm into it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What came to mind for me was another Amazon product called Howell, which kind of had some overlap similarities. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but Howell is actually integrated into the Amazon app. And it's also another kind of similar kind of offering, kind of lower cost, had been kind of compared to things like Temu or marketplaces like Temu and Shein, but it's different because it's integrated into the Amazon app. It's also available in the US, UK, and other Western markets, whereas Bazaar is available, in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and other different kinds of markets. So there are some similarities and some differences, kind of same, but different, I guess.
So just real quick, this reminds me again of a very interesting decision in a shop that can do this about whether something makes sense as a standalone app or as something that you want to use to drive or just be incorporated into a main app. It's like a thing that I've had discussions around maybe earlier in my career, depending on the team I was on or the company I was at. So that's really, really interesting as well to kind of make that parallel. It's maybe sometimes something does have given, depending on what it is, maybe sometimes a standalone app is better than just having something shoved into the midst of something already established and people know very well. So I like that. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Google has begun quietly rolling out Gemini to Android Auto as Assistant gets its long-awaited goodbye. The update has been rolling out to beta users, though it's unclear if only beta users will get the upgrade as Google pushes out the update on the server side. Gemini will offer more natural language understanding to the Android Auto experience with Gemini Live integration for contextual conversations and more flexible commands across the system. At launch, Gemini does not appear to support contact nicknames like mother or boss, which makes me sad because I've multiple times said, hey, G, please call my husband. So we'll have to wait for that. But there are settings to enable users to interrupt live responses and a setting to share precise location information with the system for context. Google has not officially announced the rollout at the time of this recording.
Yeah, the mother and boss thing, that's there was a Redditor who is one of the people who is reported to have received this on their Android Auto system. And they basically said it's not, adhering to my nicknames. So, as you mentioned right there at the end, Google has not officially acknowledged this yet, at least up until this moment. Kind of sounds like they probably are going to here soon. And then we'll get a much clearer understanding of what it actually entails and everything. But yeah, I think it's a good upgrade, potentially. I don't have an Android Auto system. Do you?
I do. I use it a lot. So I'm waiting to see how it will go because I do use a lot of the assistant features. So I will let you know on one show or another whether I like them or not.
On one of our many shows together.
Yes.
And finally, some quick headlines that are just good to know if you want to understand the news coming at you in the future.
Google's $32 billion acquisition of cloud security firm Wiz has cleared U.S. antitrust review, setting the stage of the deal to close sometime in early 2026.
7 lawsuits filed against OpenAI claim ChatGPT has caused suicides in some situations or severe mental health crises by encouraging dangerous conversations. It's a New York Times article if you want to read up all about it. OpenAI has admitted the product has gaps in safety that need work and is actively adding safeguards to protect its users.
Let's hope so. Ford is considering a permanent halt to the production of its F-150 Lightning EV pickup truck in the wake of a slowdown in demand for the vehicle, coupled with a fire at the supplier's aluminum plant that halted its production entirely.
More Amazon news. Amazon unveiled Kindle Translate. It's a free AI-powered service that lets ebook authors get quick translations of their published books into English, Spanish, and German. So a couple of languages right off the top, with more languages coming in future updates.
Meta's smart glasses now let users call or text their contacts with a single touch with a feature called Quick Connect that no longer requires the "Hey Meta" voice command for its communication actions.
Yeah, if using the voice command is the only way for you to do these things when you're out in public, like not all scenarios are the best place to do that sort of thing. So it's nice to have this and 100%. Not have to speak it out loud. Mm-hmm. Tesla shareholders approved CEO Elon Musk's $1 trillion pay package. That's right, trillion. A record-breaking compensation package that rewards him up to 25% ownership in the company if he meets aggressive milestones related to autonomous vehicles, humanoid robots, and just the continuing proliferation of the Tesla fleet.
Aggressive milestones and autonomous vehicles are not two phrases I like to put together, but we'll see. Godspeed.
Good point.
Switch 2 owners looking for a screaming good deal on game storage can grab Samsung's new 512 gigabyte P9 microSD express card on Amazon right now for $95. A great way to store your Switch 1 library while you wait for more Switch 2 exclusives to drop.
Yeah, depending on the titles you have, you can fit a lot onto a 512 gig card. So that's a good coupling.
Absolutely. All right. Well, those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper.
An internal document shows Amazon's cloud division worried it's missing the next big thing in AI. And Tom Merritt talks to Andy Beach here, who explains what's behind that blind spot.
Andy, thanks so much for joining us.
Tom, great to see you as always.
Absolutely. Now, people in the industry probably know this, but for folks who don't, explain why startups are important for big companies, and in particular for our story today, cloud providers.
Sure, yeah. So I obviously, until recently, I worked at a large cloud provider, and one of the things you learn very quickly there is that there's such a focus on scale and the large accounts that it becomes very easy to lose sight of the independence, what this article calls a solopreneur. Which we are seeing a lot more of in AI, because it is taking so fewer people to develop something that it doesn't get on their radar as quickly. It's harder unless a very large customer of theirs is attracted or interested and needs it for some critical piece. And therefore, as this article says, AWS is struggling to find those early stage, particularly AI startups, in part because they're not going the traditional VC venture-backed route, and therefore they don't have a large team, and therefore they just don't hit the radar the way the older companies did even 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, and imagine you don't hear about them around the bar in San Jose or Cupertino, because the VCs don't know about them either.
Right. It's just not on the radar until suddenly it's already a thing. And then by that time, they've sort of missed their chance to influence sort of what cloud it's going to be on, what services they might be using. And so they're looking to try to solve that. And they're trying to change some of the ways that they're thinking about it. But I think it's a good first step to even acknowledge, even though this was sort of in internal memos that Business Insider reported around the sort of the issue that they're having on landing startups like Surge AI and Base 44.
Yeah. So explain a little bit of that for people. You've got, say, a solopreneur or a small team, but they have an outsized cloud account, right? They're going to be spending a lot of money. That's what AWS wants. They want to be able to land those whales. They're whales with very tiny heads, I guess.
Right. They're pre-stage whales. It's really going to take off once they start hitting scale and they get the customers and the other pieces in. But it's hard to know which ones are going to take off. And there are a plethora of places out there that are pitching and doing active work right now. And so they have a struggle in trying to do it. They've typically gone the VC ecosystem route where they look at who's funded, who is making a name for themselves amongst either the Silicon Valley crowd or the New York tech scene or other places. In that pre-seed or seed round stage, something that's sort of pre-Series A. But what is starting to happen in this AI world that we're having now is that many of the startups that are getting successful don't necessarily have to go the VC route. They're either doing friends and family type raise and investment, or they're able to stay lean and small enough with a very small team until they have a public launch, when then they are starting to make revenue, and that investment is less critical to them in the long run.
So why not, I'm going to ask the dumb question, why not just be the best cloud provider, right? Like, why do you have to know about them? Can't you just provide the right service where every solopreneur goes, oh, AWS has the best offering, I will buy them?
It is hard to do that in a world where there are multiple hyperscaler clouds that are out there, because you end up in you're competing for their attention across 3 or now really kind of 4 big clouds that are out there, and each cloud will look for an individual business that they can make special deals around if they feel there's a strategic value there. And those strategic value, if that strategic sort of gamble pays off for them, it's both a big hit, but then it also tends to steer similar and like-minded companies in that direction because they know that cloud knows how to work with them. So I think they want to still try and find ways to differentiate in the offerings they have, and having more the business units inside of there that cater to those smaller groups will be a way that they try to do that. Now, they've certainly all tried this in the past. I was at Microsoft. Microsoft had an attention to startups that lived in the pre-seed and seed realm, but in the last sort of 4 to 5 years, they had kind of gotten away from that because they were seeing less come there, and it was much more from the companies that were taking large investments and were now in their Series A or B rounds, and therefore suddenly had potentially hundreds of millions or at least tens of millions of dollars of investment that are going on. With these places that we're talking about now in modern AI times, by the time they get to sort of that valuations, the ship has already sailed on where their infrastructure is, and the opportunity to influence where they're going to put it has changed.
So just use AI to predict which solopreneurs are going to take off, right? Easy. I
don't doubt that they are all doing that in some way. Absolutely. I promise you that's probably another gold mine of data that someone is sitting on and trying to figure out how exactly they can parse it. But I think for the moment, it will mean going back to some of the basics, having teams that have the flexibility to go outreach and also fail. Like when you're working in an environment where they're this small and this lean, not everyone is going to take off. So you have to sort of have the overhead and the understanding that, 1 in 5 is going to hit, and that 1 in 5 is going to be enough business to allow you to waste time on others that aren't going to take off, because it's just too early to tell which ones are gonna land right now.
Yeah. I imagine, all of these small startups and solopreneurs need cloud services. If all of the big guys are having the same problem, are they just evenly distributed amongst them, or is someone winning?
So I think when it comes to specialized AI services, Microsoft and Google are still very much ahead in terms of models that they are building, models that they are bringing onto their platform to entice others. We see lots of innovations there. I think part of this note was also AWS just acknowledging that they haven't done as well in sort of the AI race. They are certainly they have the lion's share of cloud infrastructure, as we learned in recent outages.
Some of it is in US East 1 too much.
Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to AI infrastructure pieces, they could be doing a better job. And so we will probably see multiple shifts within how the product team also runs for the types of offerings they have long term that will cater more to that space. But I think for the moment they still see this as a lagging area. Now there's still plenty of business going on there. They're not hurting by any stretch, but they acknowledge that they could be doing a better job there.
Well, Andy, thanks for explaining that to us. It's kind of a wonky thing, but it's interesting to know. And it's going to explain some behaviors that people will see, some offerings people may see. And that's very useful and very helpful. Thanks for doing that. If folks want to get those kinds of insights from you regularly, where should they go?
So I do a lot of writing about the convergence of media and AI over at Substack. It's called enginesofchange.ai, and happy to share this type of stuff with anybody that's out there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Tom.
Great stuff, Andy. Good to have you on the show. And definitely everybody should check out Andy's Substack. It's awesome.
100%. All right. Well, do you need a snazzy gift for a coworker or colleague, especially with the holidays coming up? Well, we have dozens of ideas for you at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. Get a mug, a t-shirt, a mouse pad, all with our new DTNS logo. They're great gifts and a great way to support the show.
Banking with Capital One helps you keep more money in your wallet with no fees or minimums on checking accounts and no overdraft fees. Just ask the Capital One bank guy. It's pretty much all he talks about, in a good way. He'd also tell you that this podcast is his favorite podcast, too. Aw, really? Thanks, Capital One bank guy. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
You've worked hard to build your business. SimpliSafe helps you protect it. With SimpliSafe for Business, AI-powered cameras watch over your entry points and instantly alert live monitoring agents. They can deter intruders before they get inside. It's protection built for growing companies. 24/7 monitoring, no contracts, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. To get 60% off your new system, go to simplisafe.com/podcast. That's simplisafe.com/podcast for 60% off. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
We end every episode of DTNS with some thoughts, and today Diane has some kind words.
Diane writes, hello all. Just wanted to drop a quick note to tell you how perfect the updated podcast format is for me. I really like the one story in depth followed by top headlines and select messages from a listener. The less than 30 minutes fits perfectly into my commute. It provides me with the right level of insights of what is going on, as well as highlights topics that I may wish to dig into deeper. I have recommended this podcast to others over the years as a way to keep up with what's going on in tech. Thanks much, Diane.
We don't do it all the time, but every once in a while, it's good to hear the you're doing great emails. So thanks for sending that in, Diane. I'm happy that you're enjoying the show.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Diane. Well, what are you thinking about? It doesn't necessarily have to be compliments, Diane. It could be, constructive criticism. It could be insight into a story. We want to hear it. Share it with us. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
Yeah, big thanks to Andy Beach and, of course, Tom for the interview, and Diane for contributing to today's show. And thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. You can keep us in business by becoming a patron at patreon.com/DTNS. This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show were created by the following people. Host, producer, writer, Tom Merritt. Host, writer, Jason Howell. That's me. Co-host, Sarah Lane. Co-host, Rob Dunwood. Co-host, Wintwit Dow. That's you. Producer, Anthony Lemos. Producer, Roger Chang. Editor, Hammond Chamberlain. Editor, Victor Bognat. Science correspondent, Dr. Nikki Ackermans. Social media producer and moderator, Zoe Detterding. Our mods, Beatmaster, W. Scottus1, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso, and J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music provided by Martin Bell, Dan Luters. Art by Len Peralta. Acast ad support by Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Bobby Wagner. And our guest this week, Andy Beach. And of course, thanks to all our patrons who make this show possible.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Banking with Capital One helps you keep more money in your wallet with no fees or minimums on checking accounts and no overdraft fees. Just ask the Capital One bank guy. It's pretty much all he talks about, in a good way. He'd also tell you that this podcast is his favorite podcast, too. Aw, really? Thanks, Capital One bank guy. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Hey, it's Maya and Sim from the Girls That Invest podcast. If you are an IT or security pro, you know managing devices, identities, and applications can feel overwhelming and honestly risky. That's where Trellica by 1Password comes in. It helps conquer SaaS sprawl and shadow IT by discovering every app your team uses, managed or not. With pre-built app profiles, you can assess risk, manage access, and even optimize your software spend. Plus, it simplifies onboarding, offboarding, and compliance, all while cutting costs by eliminating unused licenses. Take the first step to better security for your team. Learn more at onepassword.com/special offer.